Well, good morning, Thabojan and Justin from Rasiah Private Wealth.
Stuart, good to see you again.
Morning, good to be here.
Thanks for joining. So, I really want to find out a bit more about Rasiah and how you run your practice and the sort of model that you're using with your clients. Your website says that you're a wealth management firm with a unique advice model. And from what I read and from what I've heard, you built something that's fairly different from the traditional review and client experience model that a lot of practices use. So perhaps the first question really is to tell us a bit about your practice and your model, and then what makes it unique.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Well, I might start a bit around the thinking and the philosophy behind how we do advice, I guess. What we're trying to achieve as a business. Justin's going to be much better at talk about the mechanics and technology and the tools and structures and processes we do to execute that. There's a few important foundations in terms of how we approach giving advice. Firstly, we do financial planning. So it is something that we do over the life of our clients, however long we agree that it's worth doing financial planning with them. The reason I say that is because it's a bit different to probably the traditional financial planning process, which is you do a financial plan and you, as an advisor, you do a financial plan, you give that to the client, and then you implement the plan. We tend to think it as a never-ending thing. We've created a structure where we're effectively doing financial planning, doing a new financial plan, if you like, on a regular basis. But it's a never-ending thing as well. So that's really important. The second thing is that when we think about business, you mentioned business growth and running a business. Any business, you create something that you can sell to people as efficiently as possible and as many times as possible, and then you create a business that makes good money, and that's a good business. The other approach, which is the way that we approach our business, is that you find a way to add value for people, and with a total focus on value. If you do that, then clients will pay you for that value. So our focus is on the delivering of the value to create an outcome, a solution, an experience that is worth paying for, um, as opposed to a thing or a product or even a service model and trying to tell people you should pay for this, or this is what it costs us to deliver it. And it's up to the client to determine. If they determine that from a market perspective, if the clients are getting that value, they will pay us. And if they're not getting the value, then they shouldn't. Just like we believe with anything in life, if you're not getting value for something, then you shouldn't pay for it.
Yeah. Is part of your
Yeah.
process to really be clear about how that works up front?
100%. I mean, if we're going to ask people to trust us with their money in their lives, and we're going to ask them to pay us for our expertise and the work that we do, then they have to be confident. They have to be comfortable that what they're going to spend working with us is going to be valuable to them. I mean,
Mm.
why else would they do it? So we take that responsibility extremely seriously, and because of that, we don't take on every client. We will tell many people that we're not the right fit for them, and we might refer them to another advisor that has a solution if they've got expertise that we don't have, for example. Or we might tell some people this is not a good investment for you at this stage of your life. This is what you need to do right now. Maybe full financial advice, and we do holistic, quite in-depth financial advice, which we try to, when we think about value, we're trying to change lives.
Mm.
Mm.
I understand you run your practice with these client sprints where you have meetings several times a year. Love to hear more about that.
Yeah, Justin will be able to talk more about the process, but again, the thinking around it is part of it is being in touch with them regularly, but that's probably more of an outcome. The thinking behind why we've structured the service model the way we have is, firstly, when we break down the annual review process, the traditional advice process, which some firms do twice a year reviews, some advice firms do quarterly reviews, but they're reviews, right? And so generally the approach of a review is you're checking how they've gone, you're looking at their portfolios or investments. There's a few things that you might want to cover, check off on, and it's sort of a review of everything. What we've identified is that in a client's life, there are some key things, there are some key areas that should be addressed and should be reviewed, it should be looked at for them to ensure that they're achieving the things that they want to achieve in their life, but make the right financial decisions as well. And those key areas are best dealt with at different times of the year. And also, rather than trying to cover everything in one session, we find it far more powerful to be focusing on one particular area with the client so that they're focused in on the area. You can go really deep. You can do a really good job of it and make sure that you are dealing with it properly. Estate planning doesn't mean have you got a will, tick the box. That's not estate planning in our view. Estate planning is understanding the entirety of the client's family situation, what their fears are, what their desires are, what risks there are in their situation, what the structural issues are, tax implications, and thinking through the emotions and the behavioral side of what's going to happen and how it's going to make them feel and how they want to pass wealth to the next generation. The will's just a bit of paper that executes it,
Mm.
right? And so we spend time on that first part, and absolutely we need really good lawyers who can execute the will and work with us on that because we don't have the legal expertise. But understanding what's important to the client and what they're trying to achieve is fundamental and paramount to completing estate planning, for example, adequately.
Mm.
And so we've carved out we've carved out deliberate time to address issues like that. That's just one of the examples to do that with clients. The other idea with the sprints is that if we're doing if we're jumping between different types of work constantly, then you're just number one, you lose some efficiency and effectiveness, but number two, you, you're not quite as sharp as if you would if when we're meeting with clients and we're having estate, again, you use estate planning as the example. If I have estate planning meeting one after the other and I'm only doing estate planning meetings in a week, I become super good at doing estate planning meetings. I'm super
Mm.
honed in on the issues. I'm just in the zone, and clients are getting the best of me. And whether it's me or Simone or one of our advisors or one of our team dealing with that estate planning, we're just so in the zone and delivering it at such a high level. We compare it to the sports teams, right? So you have your season, you go hard, and then you go into your off season, right?
And I think
So
for the I think
yeah.
for the rest of the team as well, right? So we're all focused on those topics. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. Focus on those topics in the lead up to when the advisors are going to have those conversations with clients. So, given we've got those heavy focus areas at different times of the year, as you imagine, Stuart, there's a fair bit of planning that needs to go into it. We've got to make sure that all the relevant prep work is done. Make sure, I think, really important that everyone in the team is pretty across what's going on with our clients at any point in time, because there's going to be outstanding work that's unrelated to what we're doing. There's going to be work that comes out of these discussions as well. So, we have that focus and that structure to it, but there's a lot that goes into the prep planning for it, the actual execution, and then the work that comes out of it as well. So, it's you look at that in between where we started with bringing on new clients and the way that we map out what we do for them. There's a lot of that thinking that needs to go into the order of things and how we do a lot of it throughout the year.
Is that primarily your role, Justin, to really get that operational efficiency humming?
Yeah, so that's, I've been with the business now for coming up to about 8 months. And so a big part of it's been getting an understanding of what this approach is, how it's worked, what's worked well in the past, and how we can uplift it. And that's sort of a combination of through the experience of the team and how they've been able to deliver it really well in the past, as well as looking at, well, how can we continue to uplift it? How can we do things better? How can we make life easier for the advisors and everyone else in the team to deliver this really valuable service to our clients? And then looking at, well, how can we go the next step and looking at tools and other potential opportunities for how we uplift and make it an even better experience for our clients.
Part of that, I imagine, from a client-facing point of view, would be really important in terms of meeting prep. So you've kind of got these two layers of how tech can be used in the practice. One is client-facing to help you really get across your clients in more detail. And the other one is to support that operational, efficiency. Can you just both perhaps take me through how you use tech, and particularly with AI, how you are starting to really bring that into your practice workflow?
Yeah, so I know something that the team's done, for a while has been to record client meetings, particularly number of virtual meetings that have been had, but also meetings in person. So I know that's something that we've looked to uplift or actually make the norm now. So basically every meeting that we have with clients gets recorded, and there's been a bit of planning going into the practicalities of how that works for a combination of virtual versus in person. But obviously, given the benefits that'll come out of that from being able to use tools and make use of those recordings for other things that we want to use them for going forward. So that's probably been a big one, is making sure that happens with every meeting, is making sure that we've got those recordings, and then we can actually do a lot with them. So I don't know, Thabojan, if you want to talk to, I guess, what you use in meetings or other tools that you use to support those.
Yeah, I mean, there's the specific tools, which again, you're probably you are more across than I, Justin. But I guess generally, if we can if we can get our processes and how we deliver, if we can systematize the way that we do things, number one, we're going to improve the client experience because they're going to get consistency. They're going to get the best of each member of the team. And as Justin mentioned, there's preparation, there's stuff that needs to be done before advisors meet, and there's work that needs to be done following our interactions and things that need to be executed and implemented. So the more process we have around that, the more consistent and the better outcomes clients will get consistently. The other thing is that as that efficiency improves, we're not trying to improve efficiency to increase our margins. We're trying to improve our efficiency because then we can spend more time on the client experience. So we can spend more time talking to clients, understanding them at a deeper level, delivering value in other ways that technology and process can't. And so if we can utilize the technology and the processes, and to it allows us to focus more on that client experience. And I'm not all over tech or anything like that. I'm my strength is probably just wanting to always find better ways of doing things. The
Mm.
how is not my strength. That's where Justin is fantastic. But if we've got our processes strong, the technology is there to support the processes really more than anything
A
else.
great way to think about it. It's like, what's the problem? What are the inefficiencies? Where are they? And then technology plugs those holes.
Mm.
Don't start with the tech, start with the problem is the
Mhm.
is the old adage. So
Yeah,
yeah, wise words.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think we started this year at options for AI and investigated a few different potential solutions before settling on Claris. And I think, we're really thinking from our side is, what's the best way to get the most out of these tools? We're having these great conversations with clients. We don't want to just have a file note, because that's great to have a record of what was discussed and to be able to refer back to. But the thinking was really about, well, how can we leverage this even more? So an example, we've got Thabojan and Simone, two advisors in the business, work across all of the clients in the business, have sometimes meetings together with clients, sometimes on their own. So what the thinking was, particularly early on, was, well, if one of the advisors has a meeting today, another one's got another meeting coming up on their own in a couple of weeks, what's a really good way, rather than having to have a meeting with the advisor to discuss, dig through file notes, check recordings, to be able to get up to speed on what was discussed and make sure things don't get missed. So I think that's been pretty powerful up to this point. And again, we're still pretty early days with it, but that's sort of one of the areas that we're really keen to make better use of going forward. And I think still, I think you've got a feature coming up soon where you can ask questions to the AI and get some responses back about certain things. So I know the rest of the team, the admin side of the business, is very excited for that, to be able to, again, not have to review recordings or try and work out, what are we meant to be doing or what was discussed, or just to get some clarification about what that discussion was in the meeting with the client. And I think for them, it's going to be able to uplift for them as well their understanding of the kinds of things that get talked about in meetings, which will lead to them be able to do even better work than they already do now, which is great.
Yeah, nice.
Mm.
Great example. Anything you wanted to add there, Thabojan, or?
Yeah, I mean, if I just think about in terms of how it's changed, how we practically, we go into a meeting, we do our file notes, and then either you're doing the file note during the meeting, and then you're doing it afterwards, and then capturing action items, and then when you're reflecting back on it, trying to, for a future meeting, then you're looking back to look at old file notes and all that sort of stuff. The power of Claris in that file note space is now the quality of the file notes are better than what I was writing myself, off memory or as fast as I can type. And I'm a decent typer, but it's you're typing and listening and talking at the same time, or trying to remember what you discussed in the meeting. So the quality of those file notes are much, much stronger. The depth and the nuance that the AI is capturing is far better. So it's picking up things that when I'm reading the Claris file notes, I'm like, oh yeah, they did say that actually. Oh yeah, I remember that now. So there'll be things that happened, but when it comes to doing the file note, you missed, or we can't remember everything. Our brains are only so have so much capacity. The other thing is action items. So there's the obvious action items, which hopefully we can remember those and jot them down. But what's been interesting is reflecting on the potential implied action items or the potential future action items that the AI has been picking up, and that's been really interesting. That we still have to confirm that that is the case, or that it's something that we want to do, but the AI is suggesting that, oh, because they said such and such, maybe you want to think about doing this in 6 months.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of the area that I see, that we've scratched the surface with. But I think that's going to be a big, it's great for the business. We can help ourselves out and make ourselves work better. But if we're looking at considering it from the client side, I think that's where there's going to be a lot of value in the future with, once we've got that information in there, or the history in there, being able to proactively build out an agenda for a meeting in 6 months' time, or we've got a meeting coming up in 6 months. We can put together some briefing for the advisor. It's going to draw on what's been discussed in the past. Client said, "Oh, I was going to do X, Y, Z in 3 months' time. Oh, it's 3 months after that. How did that go?" Or, we're going to look to do this in 12 months' time. 6 months later, oh, you're still looking to do, this thing in 6 months. So being able to just sort of refer back there and be able to bring those things into the discussion, I think is going to be really powerful for a client, and add even more value to the conversations, the great conversations that the advisors are already having.
Yeah, in our opinion, Claris really needs to take the role of the AI assistant. They're being proactive. It's like having that great employee in your practice that just is across everything and just is in front of it. I'm really kind of keen to know how you're thinking about scale. Like Thabojan, you mentioned what efficiency allows you to unlock and the whole client experience. Does that then bring a sense of scale?
Yeah, look, I mean, we don't think about scale for the sake of scale. We think that as a business, to be a strong business, we do need to grow. We need to grow to be able to continue to invest in improving what we're delivering for clients. We need to be a profitable business so we can withstand the ups and downs of the economy, so that we can, as I said, continue to invest to improve. So we do need to grow. So finding efficiencies and using tech tools will help with that. Probably, I think that'll be a result. Our focus is more on where we're really leaning into the value side at the risk of over servicing our clients to in reality we're running the risk of over servicing our clients because we've got that view on value.
Mm.
And so I think that using the technology and gaining some efficiency and effectiveness in a smart way will enable us to continue to deliver that value and over service, but to do it profitably. I think that is the difference. It's not how can we push as many clients through the cookie cutter machine as quickly as possible so we can sell as many products or anything like that. It's not about how can we do things quicker so we can see as many people. It's how can we run the business profitably, somewhat efficiently, but delivering heaps of value. And then how can we do that for more and more people out there? Because we think the offer we've got is pretty good.
You're looking at what do we look at going forward? It's for me, and I think you said it before, Stuart, it's not just about, oh, hey, here's a new tech thing and we'll just tack it on and it'll be a great thing. It's how does that get integrated into the processes that we've got, the processes that we want to uplift, and does it mean that there's steps we don't need to do anymore? It might mean there's new steps we didn't do before that we're going to now do because we can see that it's going to help us out more even on the other end. So I think there's a lot. I think everyone probably has a lot to think about there with how they want to actually implement or embed different tools into what they're doing.
If you had to give 3 tips, though, to someone who's looking to just be more efficient in their practice, Justin, how would you sum up your learnings from the past 8 months or so in the practice?
Yeah, I think the big one, and we kind of talked about it at the start, is the dream that I think everyone has, which is a full visibility over everything that's going on. Client timeline, interactions with clients across the business, different types, and how that can look, and having that knowledge or understanding of, oh, here's what my colleague did who mightn't even be in the same country as me, but they've just emailed their client about a certain thing that I was actually just about to call them about. So being able to have that visibility of I guess what everyone is doing and what everyone has been doing. And I think there's many different ways that can be done. And I know we've got some different approaches we use for that. I know many other businesses do as well. But I think the more we can get to that point where there is that transparency and visibility over, what those client interactions are, I think that's going to be better. And I think for us, particularly since we're quite a high touch business with the service we provide to our clients as well. The other side of it, I'd say, is getting a good understanding of what everyone does, what your processes are, and where the gaps are in what you do, and then looking to see how you can uplift that. Because there's no point just signing up for a tool and it's just a band-aid solution for something. You need to really think about what are we doing, how does it work, how can we uplift that. So, Clarice, as an example, been using it for file notes to start with, but the big one that we've been looking at recently is the document generation, which you can do and pull in info from meetings and other documents you've uploaded and make something pretty useful for what we do. But I'm thinking about our processes there, and there's different points in our process where we probably need to be doing something that's going to give us those benefits in the long run. So you need to look at it more broadly about start to finish, what do you do, and what are those different points that you need to actually take some action to get the benefits out of things.
Can you both share a bit more on that, like that future state? We talked about file notes a bit, but which
Mm.
as because I'm not as detailed in the tech, that's sort of what I see. But I know both of you have been talking about future state and where it's going to
Mm.
go and the things that you're working on right now. Um, yeah, some of those things, like you mentioned document production and stuff like that. Like, what does that look? Give some examples. What does that look like?
I think for us, I've been thinking about it more, what are the steps that our team takes to deliver something? And how can we make that easier for them? So as an example, we have a presentation doc that we present to clients in meetings, which is around their strategy and their situation. At the moment, there's many different places that our team go to gather information to populate that document. So one thing that we've put together using Claris to start with is basically well, I've called it a helper doc to put that presentation together. In the same format as the presentation, it pulls information from 3, 4, 5 client meetings that Thabojan might have had with the client up to this point, grabs information from other documents the client's provided, and gives the support staff a nice helper doc to build out their presentation that they're providing to the advisor. And one day hopefully we'll get to the point where we can produce the presentation straight out of the system as well. But that's how I've kind of looked at it up to this point. Is it's not going to get you 100% of the way there, and we probably wouldn't want it to in a lot of cases either, because you want that final human there to be able to do certain things to make sure that you're comfortable with it. So for our team, again, we're still working out what's our best approach here as we go along, but I think every day we look at different ways to say, oh, well, I'm looking in 5 places to find that piece of information. So can we just produce a doc, and it's going to do the research for us, put it into another doc, and then we just take that one and away we go.
I think
So that's
that's a really important point, Justin. It's like experiment. Like you have to be willing to experiment and try an approach out. You know that you need to get to a particular outcome. In your case, it's there's a preparation document that you'd like to use to then populate something else, and just kind of figuring that out is, I think, what you're describing there, just with new technology in particular. Often it's like just get started and get something kind of 80% of the way there and just keep refining it. And that's the power, I think, of AI that a lot of advisors are really switching onto. It's like, I'm not looking at a blank page. I'm now 80% of the way there, and I need to really just kind of refine this and then think about how we can improve.
Still, data security is something that's really important to, well, everyone. I know we take it very seriously. We run regular audits and have external consultants who support us on our cybersecurity, data usage, training for team, as well as the technology and the tools that we use. So we spend a lot of time on that. I know we've done that exercise with Claris as well, but that might be worth something touching on. Again, you guys
Mm.
would know about that better than me.
Practice security, data security, and keeping your clients' data safe. How have you approached evaluating tools and using tools and rolling tools out within your team? Because it has to be top of mind. There's some pretty serious implications. The sort of information that you're asking your clients to share. Like, how do you think about security?
Yeah, so we undertake regular cyber audits in the business. It's something that's really important to us because we know the information that clients give us is some of the most valuable that they have about their situation. So, we go through a process with any new tools that we're considering to have an assessment of that tool and get an understanding of what the data security requirements are, or the data security measures that service has taken. So certainly no different here. It's really just getting that understanding of what the security measures are in place, and then making an assessment on whether it's something that we're comfortable with, or if it's something that we want to look at alternatives for. So, I think it's something that we're looking at all the time, and things change very quickly, which is why we're always on the front foot with assessing and making sure that we're understanding what's going on with these tools.
Do you share that with clients, the Borgen? Is that something that you impress upon them and it helps them understand how seriously you take these conversations and the data that you're pulling into their client file?
Yeah, we try to. Probably not enough as we could, but yeah, I mean, yeah, we could do a better job, but we do let them know. I mean, it again, Justin, you would have done the assessment on Claris and ensured that it's suitable for our clients, but there's tools that we won't use like ChatGPT or a bunch of things. That I think it's important to acknowledge that the tools like Claris that we use have been through that thorough audit process and have the security measures in place to protect
Mm.
our clients' data.
So just finally knowing how kind of tightly tech underpins that process delivery, that advice delivery. Have you got any enhancements or suggestions that you would really think would help us, and the rest of your tech stack sort of drive more efficiency and more growth, like, and just help you support the process that you've that you're running with your clients?
Yeah, I think as I said before, it's interesting. You've got to look at it like what is this? What steps will this take away in the process? But also the steps that it adds, right? So we see the benefits of utilizing Claris for everything that we've talked about so far. I think, but to get that in place, we have someone from our team who adds the meetings into it and sets them up and everything like that. So I think for us, more automation there would be great. So, we use Calendly to book all our client meetings. So Calendly creates the meeting, creates the Outlook. It would be great to bridge that final step there and have the Outlook or the Calendly meeting appear in Claris. We know what type of meeting it is because there's a Calendly meeting type or an Outlook title, and then potentially start processing it as soon as the Teams recording hits, which would be nice as well. But yeah, just taking away some of those admin steps would be really handy for us, given I'm sure others as well, given the number of client meetings that people have. So I think I did see that was on the roadmap, Stuart. So that'd be much
It is, yeah.
appreciated when we get that one. But even things like, I'm even thinking, if we've got documents that we've set up in Claris, if there's rules and things that could be set up. So, I've got a discovery meeting coming up tomorrow. So the system can produce a document I've set up that's going to pull in info the client's provided already, or we've already had a phone call with the client, it's going to produce something there for the advisor to prep for the discovery meeting. Would be useful. I think, as I said, presentation style docs would be nice out the back of Claris to be able to use for future meetings there. I think.
Yeah, I think it meant like integration with other like presentation tools, whether it's
Mm,
PowerPoint or LivePreso or things like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and just have it's obviously very text based at the moment, so produce some nice flow charts or images. I think that'd be nice as well to present off. Um, Probably integration with workflow systems or CRMs would be useful as well. So things like, if there's saving the file notes that Claris finalizes straight to the client CRM spot, or potentially even if there's action items identified that they sort of flow through as tasks in some sort of system would be helpful too.
Good to
Potentially,
know we're on the same page. Yeah,
it is
yeah,
good. I think
yeah.
enough.
Largely those things are on our radar. So
Okay,
it's
good.
yeah, it's yeah,
Wash my clothes and hang them out to dry, and
yeah.
that'd
That's
be
right.
handy.
All
Cook my
good.
breakfast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, gents, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. Really appreciate the insights on your practice, the way that you run it, and some of the detail around that. So, thank you for your time, and yeah, really enjoyed our conversation. Look forward to the next one.
Right. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.